What a go on, people. It's me again, Mr. B. And today I want us to focus on a topic that have been sort of coming out every now and then. And this has to do with the area of the business of culture. In fact, I am told that the Minister of Education, Dr. Dana Dixon, Dr. Dana Morris Dixon, um, recently uh, floated an idea. It's not an original idea about setting up these regional training centers for the area of culture across the three different counties: Cornwall, Middlesex, and Surrey. Which and Dr. Morris Dixon, again, young um, Minister of Education, and I have to say that I kind of like the direction of our thoughts, except that it's not exactly an original idea. In fact, Mikey Bennett, who is well-known Jamaican songwriter, music producer, and former member of Home T4, speaking on one of our Reggae Chronicles programs some time ago, I think it would have been late last year, alluded to this concept where he spoke about youngsters who want to pursue culture as music or aspects of culture as an economic vocation, all have to head to Kingston if they're going to be looking to engage in tertiary studies around the discipline, because the only facility that exists for that, or the facilities that exist for rounding out this training, exist in Kingston. And so I want to take a look today at this whole thing. Now, again, I'm not taking anything away from the minister, but I think we're at this crucial point in Jamaica's history, Jamaica's economic development, where we have to really seriously look at how we can grow the country's economy. We have a per capita GDP of less than or just about 7,000 US dollars per head of the Jamaican population. But and we've basically been stuck at that. And despite all of the contribution that Jamaica makes to the world in terms of its culture, we just have not been able to seriously monetize culture for the simple reason I think Jamaica don't understand it. Now, the cultural industry globally is worth about 2 to 3 trillion US dollars a year. And keeping in mind that Jamaica, we are already punching way above our weight in terms of culture, in terms of music, food, sports, in particular athletics. For a small country with less than 3 million population, Jamaica punches way above its weight. We have gifted to the world more than 6 or 7 different musical genres, something that countries multiple times our size haven't even been able to take a look at. And so my sense is that from a cultural standpoint, and I recently called for the government to, prior to the naming of the cabinet, and not taking anything away from Babsy. Babsy has served the ministry for a while, but I really wanted to hammer out getting putting in place a younger minister of culture who is more connected to the speed with which these industry changes are taking place. And so, let's talk about the music, for example. Jamaica has been involved in producing recorded music as far back as the 1940s. So we've been doing this thing for more than 80 years. Reggae, which has international acclaim, which influences music and different genres of music right around the world. what have we done with it? What is its value to the Jamaican economy? Not even the Ministry of Culture can put a monetary value on a monetary value on our reggae music, which we all, Jamaica and the Jamaican politicians jump up and talk about this. They compare that with Korean pop or K-pop, which is a younger industry than Jamaica. K-pop really came into being in the mid to late 1960s, but really took off in the 1990s, near about 1993. K-pop contributes some some $21 billion a year to the Korean economy. And that is not by accident. That is because the Korean government recognizes its value, recognizes not only its its domestic potential, but its export potential because of the broadness of the Korean diaspora. Whereas while the Jamaican music doesn't have as big a diaspora, the fact is it has a bigger global influence. And so what have we done in terms of taking advantage of that? And I want to go back to the point of youngsters in the school system who have decided that, hey, we want to pursue the arts as training, right? In terms of taking advantage of the opportunity. The first thing, imagine a 14 or 15-year-old who basically decides that they are not cut out for medicine or law or the general business, but them have a burning talent for music production, dance, or design. So instead of treating that as a hobby, these institutions would now allow them to get structured training, mentorship, and certification. And by the time them leave school, these youngsters will be industry ready. Again, if as a youngster you want to pursue this as a vocation, you have to leave Kingston, you don't live in Kingston, you're outside of the capital. You have to journey to Kingston to do that. So if we were to set up these tertiary type institutions in each of the regions, Cornwall, Middlesex, and Surrey, so youngsters on the east end of the island can decide that this is the direction they want to go. They can attend that institution, and you spread that across the different parts of the island. The third part of this in terms of the opportunity is that we will be building industries and not just careers by taking this kind of approach. These institutions will not only teach the art, but also the business side. Think of things like music publishing, copyright law, merchandising, event management, digital marketing. Too often, Jamaican creatives make hits, but they don't own the masters. Or they build a name, but they don't know how to monetize it. And a tertiary style institution focusing on culture fixes that gap. Now, here's the biggest picture. Again, we are a country that is struggling. Our growth rates have hovered around 1.5% per year for the better part of the last 30 or 40 years, if we have any growth registered at all. When you look at Korea, you look with K-pop, you look at Nigeria with Afrobeats, you get a better picture of the potential that our reggae music and dancehall music and the arts and dance have in terms of its ability to contribute to the GDP of the country. The problem is that our policymakers don't see these things in terms of their ability to become businesses, right? What we have, just imagine, for example, that a young producer in Montego Bay graduate from the Cornwall institution, which with not just music skills, but a network of industry contacts, business knowledge, and global marketing training. That young producer can go on to create music that is streamed worldwide, generating revenues for himself, themselves, their family, and for the country. Think about a culinary arts graduate from Middlesex developing a chain of restaurants specializing in authentic Jamaican dishes that franchise that internationally. Those jobs and the exports that are created is GDP growth that is rooted in Jamaican culture. In fact, I have a manuscript that I'm just finalizing, which spoke to that. A youth who leave Jamaica with some culinary skills, informal, but him come to America and eventually decide to take the plunge and set up a restaurant operation, which he grows into a chain. A fictional story, but it speaks to the opportunities that are available to us, right? Now, this won't work if all we are doing in Jamaica is making political announcements. What we need to be doing is to be combining. So again, we want to go back. The Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Education. Ministry of Culture, significant because that is the driver. That's where the policy in terms of culture, entertainment, and so on is going to come from. But you have to dovetail that with the Ministry of Education, because without there being a connection between the two, where there is a symbiotic relationship where both recognizes, and you also need to dovetail that into the Ministry of Industry or Commerce, because what you're looking is how do we grow, how do we expand the economy. Music, in my opinion, and our culinary offerings have a greater economic opportunity contribution to the Jamaican economy than a lot of the industries that we currently put a lot of resources behind and provide with a lot of tax breaks and benefits. But the thing that we have in front of us that costs us the least in terms of pursuing it, we don't recognize it, largely because the people who are involved with creating music or creating the culinary transformation, these are not the recognized, in other words, them don't come from the regular, the Tapanari's social class that Jamaica is. And so it's important that we change the way we look at these industries. Jamaica has a significant opportunity to capitalize on our cultural offerings. We already have our music recognized by UNESCO, provided with the kind of UNESCO protections. The music is influencing music all around the world. But because it is created by some little youth who come from downtown, who come from a big family name, we don't put the kind of emphasis and investment behind it. So I hear that Dr. Dixon made this pronouncement. I think it was on a TVJ news item. But again, this is not new. I want to go back because Mikey Bennett and myself and my Yard Media team, we discussed this at length. Our reality is that we have to recognize that the opportunities are there, but unless we take these things seriously, unless we put the investment behind the idea, unless we back it with policy creation, because without a policy formulated around it, it is not bankable. And if the issue or the idea is not bankable, nobody's going to put money behind it. And so I think Jamaica need to wake up. We have, we just done an election. You have a new, we return the former administration. But we have to start to move now as one Jamaica. Let's leave the politics behind and let us look at what we have in front of us. What are the advantages and how we can capitalize on the opportunities that are in front of us. The world is getting so much smaller. We we live in a hemisphere in terms of the Caribbean where there are some 40 to 50 million people. We need to emphasize the opportunities that are there and take advantage of the opportunities that are present within the region, and then we can move towards the rest of the world. Let me hear what you think about when you think. If they like the video, hit the like button, and if you have not yet done so, subscribe to the channel so we can have more of these discussions as we move along. Respect.